Kevin Coleman at DuBois_22.
I'm Jeff Bell at For Whom J. Bell Tolls.
And I am Christian Williams at C. Williams NFL, and this is the Devy Royale.
I do this day in and day out, all night long. Yeah. This all I think about. This all I care about. Y'all all I care about. Let's go, man, it's here. We televised, so you know we gotta show out. Yeah. They talking junk, so you know we gotta put them to sleep. Yeah. Let's go, man. Let's go. Don't play. We do this every day. We work too hard, day in and day, like I told y'all. They don't do what we do. They don't do what we do. They never done what we did.
Off to the races. Can they catch it? No, they can't. Touchdown.
Welcome to another episode of the Devy Royale, a member for the Going for Two family. Today on the show, we will be doing a Devy breakdown on three of our favorite group of five teams, picking a mashup of sporting events, our top 5 2023 quarterbacks, and discussing the best and worst college football coaches in college football. Excuse me, I don't know why I just did that. But before that, we have to talk about recent Arizona State news, which was a wild story out of Arizona. And we're going to go over kind of what we think of our boy Herm Edwards down there at Arizona State. Everybody kind of thought that was going to be a cluster, and it has turned into a cluster. So, Jeff, what is your first take? Listen to the story, talk about the story.
I think we all had a bad feeling about Herm Edwards the moment that he was hired, and it turns out he just kind of came in and did whatever he wanted to do. It turns out I think it's kind of probably a bad idea. Some of these coaches that have only been in the NFL, and then you turn around and they've been out of the game for a little bit, and then they come into college football, and it's a different landscape. And the story is wild. It just sounds like they disregarded any COVID protocols, it sounded like they got rid of a lot of staff that had problems with this. They were bringing recruits in during the dead period. They got videotape bringing recruits in. It's just wild that I don't even know if they cared if they were going to get away with it or not. They just kind of said, screw it, this is what we're going to do. But, Christian, what's your takeaway?
It's just insane, man. It's insane that a team did they just think they were above all that? I don't know. Clearly everything they did was wrong, and it wasn't just one thing. Like, you can say like, oh, recruiting, they brought in some players under the radar. They didn't even hide it. Like, they brought them to games. They met with team officials and things like that. They toured the locker rooms. It just like one of the worst situations I've heard of. Obviously, there have been the fair share of scandals, but in terms of like the severity of that in a society where that was not okay at all. Like, we were lucky to have college football, and they just said, it's cool, we're going to do everything like nothing's happening. That is insane to me. I think they're done, right? Like, they're not going to be coaching.
Yeah, I heard that the defensive coordinator, Antonio Pierce, who is also like the recruiting coordinator, he's going to get the axe. Like, he's going to take the brunt of it. They were saying that Herm might make it out, but I don't know based on what he does. I can't see him making it out of this, especially when you think about the pandemic, how bad it was in Arizona. Like, that's the other thing. Like, it was a hotbed of COVID, right? Like, my aunt got COVID when she lived in Arizona. Like, it was really bad. And they're like, yeah, let's just put them up at a hotel. It's cool. Like, we'll just have them come in. Like, it just is asinine to think that, like, they thought they could get away with it, especially when every coach is looking for this, right? Like, every coach is looking for ways to get it. And they don't really like Herm and those guys. The way they remember the CEO comment, like, oh, we're going to bring the CEO, we're going to do something different. But I think it's going to have an impact on Devy, because I really liked Arizona State. Like, that was kind of my sleeper pick going into this year. I thought Arizona State had a sneaky Pac-12 ability, and now I don't. When we're looking at as a Devy aspect, does it hurt someone the most if you had to pick someone on this team on the asset side? Does it really matter? Do you think they'll be able to play? Like, what do you think, Jeff?
They're going to play football. It'll be the question about, and I don't know if this is going to be the type of thing where they've got it figured out that a bowl ban is hit before the bowl season happens, or if it happens mid-season. They're certainly going to play football. I think the guy that has the most to gain right now would be Jaden Daniels. He's the athletic ability jumps off. His weight, he needs to prove that he can hold up and play quarterback. He's got a lot of development that needs to be done. He might be a guy that probably is going to be in college for 2 years. And I wonder if he's going to stick around, if they're going to, there's still a little bit of time to transfer, if this is going to get too messy. Christian, is there other targets, or do you have comments on Daniels that you'd like to hit?
Yeah, I mean, we know that I'm lower than you two on Daniels as is. I think it really, really depends on which coaches stick around, right? So if somehow Herm and the offensive staff are able to stick around, then I don't think it impacts them much, other than, like you said, a bowl game opportunity that at this point, with the bowl games the way they are, he may sit out of that anyway, So that's not something that I think will be super impactful, especially for like C2C formats. Now, in terms of like looking towards the future, the NFL futures, I don't think people are going to blame the players for this. I don't really think it impacts them. So I don't know. I still like some of these guys. I like White. I like Trainum. So I think they're still going to be productive. Kevin, what are your thoughts on that matter?
Yeah, I mean, I think they will. I just, when you get into these, like, are we going to get a postseason ban? A lot of those things hang over players' heads, and they're young. And, like, could they still transfer too? Technically, right? Because, like, when is the transfers coming up, right? July 1st?
July 1st, yes. Yep. So they've got a week, basically.
So we could see maybe some of these guys exit. I don't think that'd be smart for Daniels. He needs to have a good year, so he's going to have to stay. But maybe one of these running backs, Daniel Nagata's there, Tramon's there, who I like, but some people are really high on him, where I think he's, I don't know, Lindale White-esh. Like, I don't necessarily know if he's like going to be that impact guy in NFL, but he'll have a role. But I don't know. I think the biggest storyline is, like, will these guys transfer in the next week or two, or week essentially? Are they going to look at it and say, hey, maybe my best spot is to go somewhere else? But I think this definitely takes a hit on my Pac-12 sleeper for Arizona State, though.
Yeah, I don't think they're winning a ton now. Granted, like I said, if the coaches stick around, I mean, they still could. Yeah. They still have the players, right?
Yeah. And as Jeff put it, go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to say they brought talent in. I mean, usually when you do these type of things, there's probably other things going on that we don't know about, and it kind of lands kids. I think that it was either last year or the year before, their recruiting class ended up something like number 8 in the nation, and they made waves. And it always is with college football. It seems like these programs that kind of come out of nowhere, and all of a sudden, we saw it with Ole Miss. We saw it now here with Arizona State. All of a sudden, they get a top 10 class almost out of nowhere, and then it turns around 2 years later, and the story, the S hits the fan, basically.
Shout out Rutgers.
Yeah. Rutgers is coming, right? Look at that. Those McDonald's bags out there. Tennessee, all these different groups. They're all trying to pay these guys. I just think it's a crazy story that they were hosting these guys in the middle of a pandemic, especially because, remember, their team got hit with COVID really bad, and they missed a lot of games as well. And it's just like, guys, some of these coaches are just brain dead. I think we'll talk about Herm later. All right, so we're going to go into our Devy breakdown series. And really what we're going to start looking at is we definitely didn't want to start the show off with Northwestern or anything like that. So we're going to go our favorite group of 5 teams. And we're going to be looking at Coastal Carolina, Liberty, and Louisiana Raging Cajuns. First up is Coastal Carolina, and Jeff kind of took that over. And we're going to look at kind of their Devy aspect, everything about Coastal Carolina this year.
Yeah, so right now the best games, the circle games, and they're not silly about this. They had a great season last year, and they've set their schedule up very well. So they host Kansas. That's their premier Big 5 or group of 5, Power 5, team that they're bringing in and seeing. And then that is on September 10th. Then probably the big game in conference, because they don't play Lafayette outside of going to the championship game, would be Appalachian State on October 20th. Their coach, Jamie Chadwell, the Devy prospects. I think right now we've talked so much, and other people have talked so much about the quarterbacks, and there are up to 18 different ones that could end up like at the top of the draft. And so Grayson McCall is a guy that deserves mention. He's very athletic. They do a lot of RPO action with him. During the bowl game against Liberty, he had a great, I think everybody's seen the clips of Zach Wilson and Justin Fields kind of rolling back off their back foot and throwing deep. He had one of those in a game against Liberty. It was a 42-yard touchdown. Some of the other options that we're looking at, Shamari Jones, he's 220 pounds, but he's a kick returner. He's a very physical. As you watch him play, he looks it's almost like he's just not very refined at all when it comes to being a running back. He kind of just runs right into people. Reese White is a very physical runner, and he does seem to have a little bit more refinement, but at the same time, he's much smaller. He's 185 pounds, and he doesn't have the athleticism that you see with Jones. Javion Hiley is their premier wide receiver, and Isaiah Likely is a very athletic, very good tight end that's probably going to potentially be pushing for a top 5 tight end position in the 2022 draft. He's a converted wide receiver, and so he's got great receiving skills, 601 yards, and so he's put on a lot of weight to get to 6'4", 245 out of high school. And Hiley not a guy that doesn't pop off the film when you watch him. He's not really a speed guy. He just, the guy that kind of reminded me of is Zay Jones, who was very productive in college, but he didn't physically bring any traits really. And so that's the thing that I see with him. This offense, it really funnels through those top 2 receiving options, the tight end and the wide receiver, and then runs a lot of RPO and gets their work done that way. CJ Maribel is really the only piece that they're missing off last year's offense. They brought in the entire offensive line, came back as well. And so losing Maribel, that's going to hurt a little bit for productivity, but I think that between White and Jones, they'll be able to cover that. Running back has traditionally been one of the easier positions to cover. And so that's the only guy that they're losing. I think this team's going to be very, very good. I expect that they've done a good job recruiting. They've brought in a couple transfer portal guys to help shore out their defensive line. And again, like you bring back a experienced, good offense. And so I expect that we will see them at the end of the season. The Appalachian State game is going to be an interesting game. Cameron Peoples there at Appalachian State, running back. That's always been traditionally a good program. But, we might see a pretty good conference championship game coming out of the Sun Belt. And it does seem like the Sun Belt is stacking up a lot of talent currently.
Yeah. What's your opinion on Likely? Because I like him. I've talked about him last year when I noticed him. He had a couple of good games at the beginning of the year. I like you said, he is a converted wide receiver, so he was tight. He was small too. Did you look up his 247 picture? It is the funniest picture ever.
Yeah, he was like 200 pounds when he came out of high school, so he's up to 245. So he's doing the things that you want to see to be able to play tight end at the next level. This isn't a Jaleel Billingsley case where the guy's still running around at 218 or whatever it might be. He's putting that bulk on, and they use him a lot. So he's a great C2C option because not a lot of offenses in the college game use their tight end. And so Likely is a guy that he gets a lot of run in the passing game naturally, and just the way it flows through the top 2 options. So I do like him. It'll be interesting to see if he can show a little bit more refinement. They don't really ask him to block a lot. They kind of line him up in the slot a lot. And so you'd like to see that from fantasy-wise, but our NFL team's going to like to see that when they come to the draft, or they're going to want a more well-rounded tight end.
He reminds me a bit in terms of his usage of Harrison Bryant, now Cleveland Brown. That's kind of how he was used at FAU. And so, Jeff, would you say it's likely that he would be a top 5 tight end next year?
There may be a chance. Yes, I think that there is a likelihood. And that really, I don't know that Hiley is going to be a guy that we expect to get drafted very highly at all, but I think he's going to have a very productive season on the C2C side. And then Grayson McCall, again, it's interesting because he can make those throws off platform. He's a guy that he's got a sneaky amount of athleticism. And so whether or not he's able to pull forward and emerge to that top group, because this is a very wide open class outside of, I think everybody's got Howell and Rattler at the top there. And outside of that, this sets up for a Burrow situation type where a guy comes out of nowhere. I don't know that McCall would be that type of guy to do that, but I do think that there's a chance that he's on rosters in the NFL.
I will say, I said in the group chat today, I said, man, I think I'm a little lower on McCall than I need to be. Like, I think that if you're watching this, if you're not, go to the YouTube channel because it will be up this week. Those last 2 throws on the tape that we showed that he could probably make it in the NFL. The back shoulder throw and the ability to get that thing to the numbers on the outside and kind of the accuracy of it. When I was watching it, I was like, you know what? Like, he shows something there. And in this class, like we've been talking about, it's not a for sure thing after 2. Really, it's not. And there's a lot of question marks. If he has a good year, like we talked about with that schedule, we could be talking about McCall as being a solid option.
Yep. To that point, I have him at my QB4 right now for like my early preseason rankings. I said before we were on, he's like, I think of him what everyone is thinking of Matt Corral. And so I think they're very, very similar caliber players. They run a lot of play action. They run some RPOs, but man, do they have arm talent, and their off-platform stuff is fun to watch. I love it. But yeah, big McCall guy. I wish I would have drafted him in that last C2C, but I passed him.
I would do a lot differently if we were to do that again. You know, and the C2C leagues, they are learning experiences. And so you're going to learn and you're going to have fun doing it. I highly recommend, but you're going to want to try again after your first one.
All right, let's go to Liberty. I think that they're an interesting team this year, Liberty Flames, and they have some interesting Devy assets, probably one in particular. But Christian, what did you see with Liberty?
They've got a fairly easy schedule too. Liberty has one of the best offenses in the nation. Just bar for bar, they scored. I think they scored 38 points a game last year. Obviously, that's under Malik Willis. In terms of what their schedule looks like this year, there are 2 games that I'm really excited for. They get to play the aforementioned Matt Corral and Ole Miss late in the year. So we could be looking, now I know saying that Malik Willis is a Heisman candidate, some people don't think it's possible because he plays for Liberty. I think those people are probably correct, right? It's going to be tough for him. But we've seen crazier things happen. I think if he's that good and Liberty's able to compete, that matchup against Ole Miss is going to be crucial because I think Matt Corral definitely will put his name in that pot as well. So Malik Willis is a fun player. So that matchup specifically will be fun to watch. But they also get to play Louisiana, who we'll talk about here soon. And they have a pretty good football team. And so I look at those 2 matchups. I think they're back-to-back weeks as the test for Liberty, right? Up until then, it's pretty much like preseason for them. In terms of Devy relevant players, there are 2 specific guys that I think are Devy relevant, and that's obviously Malik Willis, who, if you're watching right now, you see him running all over teams. People will talk about his arm strength, his zip. It's all there. He can make some crazy throws outside the numbers, downfield. He's inconsistent with his placement. He needs to get better. A lot of people project that he will. A lot of people compare him to Trey Lance. I think that's an awful comparison. Malik Willis is 22 or 23 already. Trey Lance is 20. So that's not something I would do. But I do like Malik Willis for what he is. And then CJ Yarbrough was a freshman last year. He produced at a pretty high rate. He was a 3-star prospect. I think he's a Devy asset. Other than that, I think you're looking at mostly C2C guys, right? So Joshua Mack, TJ Green, Johnny Huntley, DJ Stubbs, Kevin Shea, Demario Douglas. Those are kind of guys that I would look at as pretty deep plays in C2C leagues. None of these guys are going to have super, super high ADP, but always guys to keep eyes on. In terms of some sleeper guys that I would like to talk about, Stetson Moore. He transferred in. He's their 3rd tight end right now, but he also has a path to some playing time. He's a wide receiver convert. We're going to see that all the time now. Clearly, we've talked about so many former wide receivers at the tight end position because that's what the position is now. But Stetson Moore, I think that's a decent look at, a C2C tight end. I don't know what his NFL prospects would look like, but it's kind of like a wait and see type of thing, right? And then lastly, this is a guy that, you know, he's not going to have much worth to you this year, but Jonathan Bennett, 3-star freshman quarterback last year. I think he threw 6 passes total. He is a guy that I think is going to take over for Malik Willis as soon as he's gone, which, spoiler alert, Malik Willis is entering the NFL draft after this year. He's like a 7th-year senior. I think he's a 5th-year senior. But so yeah, Jonathan Bennett is a guy that you should probably keep an eye on at least. And then lastly, in terms of like their outlook, like I said, they're going to be a really, really good team. Hugh Freeze has this team firing on offense. It's fun to watch. They are a fun team to watch. Keep eyes on Malik Willis. The supporting cast, it's going to be there, but like I said, all of their games are cakewalks until the last few. So it's going to be fun. I think this is a team that you're going to see in the AP polls pretty early. You know, I think even preseason you could see them sneak into the back half because I think they're that good. So.
Yeah, no, I have no idea what to do with Malik Willis. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, his talent's there. He's he has all like the intangibles upside that you see. But there's so many red flags that go off in my head. But you see the talent and you're just like, damn, he's so talented. He went 1-on-1 in a depleted Devy draft I was in. So people are buying him really high. So what is your take on him, Jeff?
You know, I think there's the concerns about, you hear the stories about Auburn. Basically, he didn't take it seriously his first couple of years in college. And so when the opportunity came between him and Bo Nix, he wasn't prepared. And so he ends up in Liberty. I think Hugh Freeze, for all his warts, he's one of the most creative offensive minds in football, bottom line, period. And so what he does in Liberty, he puts Willis in fantastic situations. There were some throws, you know, I rewatched the bowl game between Liberty and Coastal Carolina. He was not cautious with the ball at all. You know, he hung it up there several times. There were multiple turnovers. I think that my concern is that his athletic ability and his arm strength is so much at this level that he's currently playing at. And if he's not developing the other aspects of the game, and he's just kind of relying on those physical traits, you know, it might be the type of thing where, sure, he smashes and he puts up great numbers and he goes to Liberty, and then he gets into an NFL camp and all of a sudden the game's moving too fast, because we've seen that type of thing before. Just these guys that have relied on outstanding athleticism, and then the processing. I think Freeze is taking a lot of the processing type work out of it. When you watch, there's not a lot of reading the field. It's just going. And so that's a little bit of concern. I think that people were really hung up with that with Justin Fields this past year. And I think that Justin Fields was playing in more of an NFL style offense than what Willis is playing in right now. So, you know, if you're the type that you were concerned about Justin Fields processing and Justin Fields, those type of things, and you're all in on Malik Willis, okay, good for you.
Also, you're wrong. You shouldn't be concerned about Fields' processing. And to that point, Willis goes 1-2 run, right? Because he's the best athlete on any field, pretty much. The 2 sometimes gets a little quick, right? So he'll go 1, hold, 2, oh shoot, I have to run now, and then he runs for 40 yards. So I mean, that's probably what they're teaching him to do because he's so good at it. But yeah, there definitely some question marks with him. The trajectory is there. People are, like Kevin said, 101 and Devy depleted. That's too strong for me, partly because you got Carson Strong later, and I think I'd take him over him. But alas.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think I took him at the 109, so I was happy with him falling there. But I do think there's that. Shout out to Hugh Freeze. Didn't he coach from the hospital bed in that one game?
Yeah.
That was him, right? Yeah.
Yes, that was him. Yeah, and I wonder, you'd have to think he's going to get another opportunity because he's doing so well at Liberty, and he did so well at Ole Miss, you know, building it. I always get him and Art Browse kind of confused because
they're both going to hell. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. All right, let's go to my team real quick. It'll be a little quicker than the other ones because I don't know if there's Devy relevant guys, but the Louisiana Raging Cajuns, all-time name, by the way. There's 2 games I really like on their schedule. Texas, first game of the year. I think that's a very good I think that's actually a kind of a a trap game for Texas. Like Texas coming in, Starks being there. You have Raging Cajuns coming with fifth-year senior quarterback Levy Lewis. He's been there forever. What's up with these small guys being there for like 6 years, it feels like? He came back. So Texas got to be careful with that game, and that'll be an interesting game there. And then obviously, like Christian alluded to, is Liberty. I think that's going to be a fun game. I will say from a DFS point of perspective, if we're bringing that up, all three of these teams are smashed, but especially Liberty and Louisiana. Like if you can get these quarterbacks and these running backs that I'm going to talk about in DFS purposes for college football, that's kind of where that, and obviously C2C. I don't see Lewis being a Devy asset. Running back wise, they lost Elijah Mitchell and then Trey Regas. They lost him as well. They're bringing in Chris Smith and Michael Orphy. And Chris Smith, actually, they feel like he's going to be able to step up into that role. Last year, he had 350 yards rushing and a touchdown. He's 5'9", 195. So he's a little bit on the too smaller side for me as far as Devy concerns. But they are going to run the ball. And last year, this team averaged, I believe it was 423 yards a game and 34 points per game. So they're going to put up points, yardage. I like them. As far as the receiving corps goes, they have tons of experience in that. Kyron Lacey led the team with 28 catches, 364 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Jalen Williams is there. They have Peter LeBlanc there as well. And all their tight ends back. Every single one of their linemen, including backup, is back. So that's some Devy reshirts I gave to you guys there. That's a massive improvement there, and that's just a massive advantage to him and having every lineman back on that in there and their backups being there. So as far as their outlook goes, their schedule's not crazy. If they can get by Texas, they're in the Sun Belt. Georgia Southern sometimes okay, South Alabama, Appalachian State. Like the Sun Belt's actually a fun conference to watch if you guys haven't watched them play there. And then they got Liberty. So I think realistically we're going to be talking about a 9-win team if they can come together. They're very experienced. They might be the most experienced team in that Sun Belt. So that's one thing to look out for.
Yeah, it's either them or Coastal Carolina and the two top teams. Yeah. And I saw the same thing when Chris Smith came in. He was in there with 2 NFL running backs right now, 2 backs that are in NFL camp, and you didn't see a noticeable drop off in his performance versus the other 2 guys. I'm excited, and I'm just ready for football, and we're still a ways away. But I do think that you look at the experience in some of these teams, and I think what you're seeing. The effects of COVID is these guys that weren't going to the NFL are back. And so you're getting extra groups of guys back. And some of these lower tier teams are stacking teams up. Meanwhile, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, they're bringing in new players. And because their guys all went. And so even those programs encouraged the seniors to go, even if they weren't going to get drafted, just because they wanted to keep that recruiting churn going. So I think that we're going in for, last year was an unprecedented college year, and I think we're in for it again because there's going to be a lot of the mid-tier teams that are very, very experienced versus a lot of the younger upper echelon teams. And so the playoffs might be pretty interesting for the first time in a while in terms of who's going to get in there.
So what you're saying is Louisiana could beat Ohio State. Is that what you're saying on this program?
No. I heard that.
Yeah. So okay.
I'm saying that
you elitist Big Ten stop. They could beat Texas. I actually think that I would bet that game when those numbers come out. I can't wait when we stop betting. Like Sweden versus Poland. When we actually get some real lines, I'm going to be interested what that line is because I might be putting some money down, child's tuition on that one.
Yeah.
All right. So that's the look. Coastal Carolina, Liberty, Louisiana, a lot of C2C assets in there, a lot of DFS assets in there. Devy assets, I'm not sure. Willis, McCall, it's be interesting on there. We've become a kind of a McCall show now. We'll bring Jeff along with us when he gets to us. But speaking of quarterbacks and where we're going to go to the 2023 class, the top 5 quarterbacks, which is an interesting class. I've been breaking them down and looking at it. And like always, we're going to say it's our consensus. But if anybody's listened or heard the show before, we don't really do consensus very well. I think the top 2 are consensus. And then after that, it's going to get a little in there. So who is your number 1, Christian? Is it DJ?
It sure is DJ. Yeah.
Jeff, how about you?
You guys afraid to say Uiagalelei? I mean, come on. Let's go.
No, I got it.
This is a Devy show. Let's go. Yeah, it's absolutely DJ Uiagalelei, number 1.
There you go.
Okay. What do you see in DJ, Jeff?
I look at when he played last year versus when Trevor Lawrence played last year. Obviously, the physicality jumps off, and especially the guy being a freshman last year. I mean, he's a beast. He's a monster. But I did think that they were a little bit more aggressive with their offensive play calling. I felt like when he was quarterback with passes down the field, and we're seeing it right now on the screen, then I think when Lawrence was in, I think that they didn't exactly run as many of the RPO screen jet sweep type action when DJ was playing. They kind of went vertical. And so I thought that was interesting because you would almost expect it to be the opposite way, where with a freshman, you're going to kind of put the training wheels on. It seemed like a willingness to take him off when he came in.
What do you think, Christian?
Yeah, I mean, it's because he's going to be a better quarterback than Trevor Lawrence. I'm there. We need to obviously see it, but from what I've seen so far, I think that's within the realm of possibility, right? Look at him, feel that blitz right there. If you're watching, I'm so sorry if you're audio only. That was just so nice. I had to point it out. He felt that blitz coming. He saw it pre-snap, and he immediately checked down, and it turns into a touchdown. His escapability is there. His arm talent's there. There's nothing I don't like about Uiagalelei, and he's actually my number one Devy quarterback overall. So I have him above Howell, Rattler, some of the guys that we're going to talk about. This is just a guy that I think the world of, and I think if Clemson is going to be good this year, it's because he puts himself in the Heisman discussion, and I think he'll be there.
No, I think that's true. I was always, you guys know, I love Bryce Young, but I had to put DJU into my number one. I had to. Like, you just, with what he did last year, I need to see what Bryce can do this year. Like that throw right there, if you saw that back shoulder throw right there and what he's able to do and his arm strength, pushing the ball down the field, it's phenomenal like these guys are talking about. I think they're a lot of fun. There are some question marks on that Clemson roster. As I'm doing the Devy breakdown for them right now, they lost a lot of guys. They don't have a backup quarterback. It's literally they two of their backups or recruits that they had come in actually going to get drafted in the first round for baseball, MLB. So they realize like they're going to lose them as well. So their depth on that Clemson team is definitely going to be lacking there. Well, and so that's going to be there. But I do have a question for Jeff. Jeff, you have the 101 in a C2C or even a Devy draft. Are you taking DJ or are you taking Bijan Robinson? Because that's been a very hotly talked about thing right now. Who are you taking?
Is it Superflex?
Superflex, yeah. We don't play the one quarterback crowd. If you play one quarterback, you boomer. Okay, get out of here, boomers.
Give me DJ, just because, I understand the appeal of Bijan, but at the same time, I think that there are 4 pretty clear quarterbacks at the top of the Devy landscape right now. And so if you don't take him at 101, you're not getting a quarterback. And hopefully your NFL side is very strong in that regard, because then you're kind of hoping to strike gold with your 2.12 or whatever it might be.
What do you think, Christian? What do you same thing?
I'm always Superflex. I am always looking at quarterback as early as I can, especially when I know that it's long term. I would take DJU without a doubt. I was actually shocked when Bijan in the C2C that we just finished up finally after 17 months of drafting. When Bijan was taken first overall, I texted people. I was like, what's happening? Why is this happening? Should have been DJU. Thank you for not making DJU. I think that was Austin. So
it was Austin. Yes. Yeah. Austin's a big zero quarterback guy now in C2C. I'm not sure understanding that. But I think you have to go DJ. I think just with the landscape, right? There's so many question marks that we're going to talk about right now. Even I think Bryce Young. So let's go to Bryce Young. Everybody knows I like Bryce Young. I loved him coming out of college. He's 5'11" listed, 200 pounds. So he's definitely, when you think about these guys' athletic profile, they're completely opposite. Like you're looking at DJ, who's a monster, 6'4", 245, 250. And then you're looking at Bryce. I think they all have different characteristics. Bryce was super productive in high school. When you look at what he was able to do, I think he threw for almost 13,000 yards. He was very comfortable. I think the thing that stands out to me about Bryce, and I'm just going to steal the show for a second, is that I like his IQ. I love his ability when you watch him in the spring game. Read defenses very well. His release is quick. Like if you watch on the tape, I love his release and I love his instincts. Like his ability to kind of, I think he just thinks the game very well, high IQ. He steps up in pressure very well. He has improved touch. He's got good accuracy on his deep ball. He makes some throws sometimes, even some throws he made in here that was incomplete. When you watch the spring game, his ability to kind of get it to the numbers on the outside is really well done. Like, he's a very good quarterback. Now, I don't think he has a ceiling as DJU, but I do think he's a very strong quarterback option. Christian, what is your things about Bryce?
Yeah, I see a lot of the same things. There are a lot of things I like about him. You can tell that he just needs to play, right? So in the spring game, you could hear Coach Saban coaching him up. It was necessary because he made some mistakes that they're going to get fleshed out. They need to get fleshed out before he steps foot on the field if he's going to be up to Alabama standards, though. I don't think they have a guy that can challenge him for that spot, so I think he's starting no matter what, because he just brings a different dynamic to the field. Like, he could break one off for 90 yards. He could break one off for 99 yards. It doesn't even, like, he is able to do that. His arm is good. I think the processing needs to be a little quicker, and that was some of what Saban was, like, talking about in that game. Of course, we need to see him on the field. He's going to have all summer. He has had all spring, and he's going to have all summer to really refine some of those things, and then I think he hits the ground running. He's a guy I love as well. He's my Devy QB4 right now, so my second 2023 guy.
Okay. Jeff, do you have any concerns?
I mean, it's hard not to have a concern with size when you're talking quarterbacks. I know that we try to move past that mindset, and we've seen it with Russell Wilson. We've seen it with Kyler Murray that you can get it done, but it is one of those things that when you see it, you think about it with a quarterback. And so it's hard not to mention that. But again, I think Christian and I think you hit very well on the development that needs to happen. And that's the biggest thing. A lot of these guys lost this past season or lost portions of this past season, and just playing quarterback at the college level is so important to their development. And he's a guy that needs to get in. He just needs to play some football.
Yeah. I mean, before the season, they were talking about him taking over for Mac. Like, oh, Mac Jones going to lose out to Bryce Young. And then now Mac does what he does and leads to a national championship. And then all of a sudden now Bryce has all these question marks. I'm like, well, he didn't beat out Mac Jones, but Mac Jones is now a first-round pick. I think we need to be, I do think, whether or not you believe in Mac, which there are some question marks there, he was what Saban realized, hey, this is what we need in this offense. Sark, hey, this is what we need. I love him, though. I do, but he needs playing time. Like, he's got to get some reps. He's got to do there. Now, after
I do want to mention, I'm a little bit concerned about Bill O'Brien. I'm not going to lie. Like, you go from Sark offense to Bill O'Brien, I'm a little bit concerned about that.
Yeah, that's an underrated part of this offseason, right? Bill O'Brien going there. We've seen the train wrecks that he's left in his wake. Can he do it? And we know Saban's not really an offensive guy. His main corners obviously, but defensively he's going to be there. So that's a fair point too. I wish Sark was there, to be honest with you, and that was who Bryce was recruited by. Sarkisian was the guy; he was the main recruiter. So there are some question marks there. So that's a good point. Finally, look at you, Jeff, killing it tonight. All right. This is where we go off the rails here. I am not 100% sure where we're going to go with our QB3. Where do you want to go, Christian?
Harrison Bailey.
All right, let's go to Harrison Bailey. Jeff, is he your QB3 at all or no?
No, you know who my quarterback 3 is going to be in this class.
Yeah, that's why we're skipping you. All right, go ahead, Christian. Go to. Let's talk about Harrison Bailey before we get to CJ Stroud.
Yeah, I was looking at my list. I'm like, oh, now I understand. Yeah. Harrison Bailey. This is it's the eye test, right? Like, you watch him play and he's talented. You have no idea what's happening in that program right now, because look at these throws. If you're audio only, I am so sorry. I highly recommend going to the YouTube, because Harrison Bailey, of course, he's throwing on air at times, but the kid has an arm. When I watch him play, he reminds me a lot of Trevor Lawrence. It's not just the tall frame. It's not just, a similar release. It's just the ball pops out of his hand. You can't say that about every quarterback in this class. I think this quarterback class overall is pretty weak. This is a guy that, if he starts this year, I could see being in contention for QB2. Probably won't beat out DJ Uiagalelei, but he could probably, if Bryce does. So say those question marks still come up, and we don't get solutions to them, and Harrison Bailey comes and he balls out. I think that's definitely within the realm of possibility. Jeff, I know you like CJ Stroud more, but Do you like Harrison Bailey?
I do like Harrison Bailey. Does Tennessee's coach like Harrison Bailey? Is he going to play?
I don't know, man.
I don't know. Like sometimes it's hard in doing this to, you could fall in love with the player's tape and the story and everything else, and then the coach doesn't play him. So, and you're not there, so you don't know why he's not playing him. But I agree with everything that you said. The ball certainly leaps out physically. He's everything that you want to see. It's just let's see him play quarterback.
It's so strange.
It's weird because when you watch him play, you're like, wow, he's got the intangibles. Like they said, hey, are you going to transfer? He's like, no, I'm here. So he wants to be there, even though it's a cluster. And he's saying all the right things. He's playing all the right things. But he didn't really get first team reps in that spring game. They're kind of toying with him a little bit. I believe in the talent, and I got yelled at on Twitter when I put it out there that I still believe in him. And he was one of the most decorated high school quarterbacks to come out of his state, which included Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence. Like, we're talking about legit prospects here that he has. So I like him. I think that he can be there. I know that Jeff talks about CJ Stroud, so we can kind of shift to that one. I legitimately have some question marks about CJ Stroud because I don't know if he's the best quarterback on that roster, to be honest with you. But go ahead, Jeff. What do you like about CJ?
I mean, that's fair. It's going to be a Herculean task for Ryan Day to juggle all these quarterbacks. The athleticism that we saw in the Michigan State game last year was his only real action. He played a snap in the Clemson game, but he didn't do anything. So that's what you want to see. You're seeing the tape here. That probably would have been picked against a normal TV, but at the same time, that was a completion to Olave. I think the infrastructure, you look at comparing him to Harrison Bailey. So he might have the most talented wide receiver room in the nation. He might have the best offensive coach in the nation. They're going to win almost every game they play. And so he might have one of the best offensive lines in the nation too. And so he's got everything that is going to allow him to succeed. And so when we're playing the game that we're projecting forward, am I going to lay my chips on a guy that has all the infrastructure that you'd love to see, and maybe there's competition about him or Kyle McCord, or maybe even Jack Miller? Doubtful on that one, but at the same time, Jack Miller, if you're watching, you deserve a mention. Best of luck. Anyways, so it's one of those things that, it's uncertain, but Bailey's uncertain too. And when you're looking at the uncertainty on Bailey's situation, if he's not playing, or Heupel did some things at UCF, and so maybe he's able to implement some things at Tennessee, but it's going to be on a curve. You're going into the SEC, and talent levels down at Tennessee. So if we're just placing a bet here on who is going most likely to succeed at this point over the next 2 seasons and make it to the NFL, I have to go Stroud just because it's set up for him to do it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Kevin raises a good point, though. I don't know that CJ Stroud should be penciled in. I think he was penciled in clearly. But, man, I went and rewatched the spring game, and McCord made some throws, too. Stroud did. I think McCord made the best throw. I think Stroud was the most consistently good. But, man, I just don't know what happens if they split time at quarterback, because I think that's within the realm of possibility, too, with Ryan Day, to make sure that his guys stay. Because he really, I don't know how long Kyle McCord backs up CJ Stroud, and now we're looking at 2 years. It's just, I get nervous there. I get the concern with Bailey as well, though. So.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of our point. Like, after the top 2, there's a lot of question marks for either playing time, coaching staffs. There's a lot of issues out there, and even competition-wise. I like Stroud. When you look at him, he didn't really break onto the scene until his junior year. So he's still pretty raw, like junior, senior year, and then he sat out last year. So this is really his 3rd year playing really high-level football at that position. He was a 2-sport athlete. You like that. So I do think he has a ton of potential and ceiling. I don't know. I mean, it's a good problem to have in that QB room being so talented. Michigan would love to have that problem. But I like Stroud. When I watch McCord, it pops. Like, you just watch him, and I know us film grinders out here, even though we're trying to get canceled by that, that one company, like, we watch him film and looking at all that kind of stuff and going through it. I loved McCord. It was popping everywhere. And then you watch Stroud, and he, like you said, he takes reads, he makes the right throw. There was nothing out of him that he went out of his comfort zone, which is great. But when you look at potential-wise, who's the better quarterback, I think he'll probably go with Stroud early on, but they're going to split time. And then you have the freshman phenom coming next year in yours. So what is going to happen in that room? So that's where I kind of worry about. If you're drafting these guys, you have to put that in perspective. Like, are you comfortable drafting Stroud, McCord, or Ewers coming later? Like, do you want to stay away from this room, which is a weird concept to kind of have? I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy.
I don't think you're crazy. I mean, avoiding a room that is very uncertain, I don't think that's crazy. People are gonna take the chance, though. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, they will.
Ryan Day quarterback assembly line. Just wait.
All right, so that's kind of our 3-4-ish. I think we're gonna be talking about Max Johnson. Is that kind of where we want to go next?
Sure. That's how I have it.
All right, Christian. What do you see in Max, or don't see?
You know what I see? I see a guy who has a path to playing time early, and I need to see a little bit more from him. He's got NFL pedigree, right? He has a decent arm, but he's so I know he's got a little bit of athleticism, but I just hate watching him slumber around the pocket. Look at him. He makes the right throws. He's able to make the deep throws, and that's kind of where I'm at. He's able to throw with pressure on him. That was pretty gross right there. But a lot of throws that you're going to see from him are a little gross. It's just he's the best option there. I don't think Miles Brennan is going to start. I know some people think that PFF, I think, has Miles Brennan as a top 10 quarterback returning. It's pretty tough to do that when you're on the bench. But yeah, I want to see more from him. I want to see the development. I don't love the class after really the top two, but then after those top four for sure.
Yeah, PFF. PFF. That's all I gotta say.
That's all you have to say. Yeah.
What do you think, Jeff?
He throws the ball with the wrong hand. I don't like left-handed quarterbacks, man. It is
poor Tua.
Poor Tua, but I don't like left-handed quarterbacks. Anyways, so you mentioned the NFL bloodlines, and you mentioned the physical profile, and so that's it. It's he fits as an NFL quarterback, and so if we're projecting, he's going to be at a big-time program, he's going to have the spotlight on him, so he certainly has the opportunity to go to the NFL. We've seen this program produce Joe Burrow, the number 1 overall pick in the draft a couple of years ago. So certainly from that regard, again, I'm big on, especially when you're projecting down the line, on are the pieces going to be in place to allow this player to succeed? And so I think that they are clearly there for Johnson. And so I think it's fine to put him there.
Yeah, we won't hark on this too much because we got to get out of here. But I will say, I don't know about his arm talent. It scares me. Some of those throws he makes, I'm like, I just don't see it. I don't know if he has the arm talent to do there. To be honest, a kid I like that, he transferred recently, but Ethan Garbers to UCLA in that class, I watch his tape and I'm like, well, he does a lot of things that Mac Johnson really he can do, but he looks a lot better doing. So I have a feeling 4, 5, 6, 7 in that range is going to be just a cluster of guys, and they're going to have to play through this. And that's kind of how those 2023 quarterbacks kind of consensus go to. All right. Well, hey, Jeff, why don't you run us down our games that we're going to play real quick, and our first one, which is the Sportsbook Rundown.
Yeah, absolutely. So the show's broken into 3 different games. We're playing for a hypothetical poker chip. The winner gets the immunity, the turnover chain of immunity, and the losers must grab from the Happy Meals McDonald's box of death. And so Christian is going to start us off with the Sportsbook Rundown.
I sure am. Jeff, you are in the lead, correct, from the Sportsbook Rundown last week. You have the first chip. We're going to be going through a variety of games. We're going to do it very quickly tonight. I'm just going to give you the name. You're going to make your pick. We're going to keep going. Short analysis if you want, if you're feeling good about it. But Portugal versus France in the UEFA League stuff, qualifiers, whatever they're called.
I'll take France.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm taking Portugal just because I'm Portuguese.
Okay. I'm also going to take France. because I didn't do well last week, and I probably would have picked Portugal. And all right, Sweden versus Poland. Jeff, who you got?
Give me Poland.
Okay.
Yeah, give me Poland as well.
All right. Well, I guess I'll take Sweden and just hope for the best. Germany versus Hungary. We're gonna do the over/under on a total of 3.5 goals.
I'll go do the over.
That's a lot of goals, right, for soccer? I mean, I don't watch soccer, but I feel like I'm going to go under because, I fell asleep playing FIFA one time, so I'm going to use that as my analysis.
Yeah, I love FIFA. Big FIFA guy. Going under, though, because, I mean, Germany, they'll probably, stop after 3. That's what I'll say. It'll be 3-0. Copa America, Brazil is the favorite versus Colombia. Jeff, who you got?
Give me Brazil.
Yeah, I know nothing about these teams. I'll just take Brazil because they used to be good. They have Ronaldo a long time ago, or Ronaldinho. My bad.
Yeah. We can sweep that one. I'll take Brazil. Chile versus Paraguay.
Give me Paraguay.
I'll take the underdog. Give me Chile.
Okay, and I will take Paraguay. All right, Bucks versus Hawks, game 1. The spread, Bucks are favored by 7.5 points. Is this real?
It's real. Well, it was real on DraftKings last night. So.
Wow, that's pretty shocking. Okay, Kevin, Jeff, actually, you're first. Sorry.
I'll take the Hawks. The Bucks will not cover, so the Hawks.
I'm gonna take the Bucks. I think they're gonna cover. I think they're out for blood right now.
I'm going to take the Hawks because I assume Trae Young has to bounce back after that shit performance. That was so bad. And they still won, so good for him. All right, Travelers Championship Golf. We have Bryson DeChambeau again, Dustin Johnson, Patrick Cantlay. I don't know this guy's first name. Casey.
Paul.
Paul. And then Brooks Koepka. So we're going to pick the best.
Pick the best. Give me Dustin Johnson.
Yeah, I'll take Brooks Koepka.
All right, and I picked Bryson. He was in it till the end last week, so I'm gonna take him again. All right, and then we have a UFC one here. Don't know the first names. If someone wants to help me out, Gain versus Volkov.
I don't know the first names either, so
that's solid. All right,
they were on the poster for the UFC, so that's why we picked them. I'll take Gain, the favorite.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take Volkov because that's a pretty badass name.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my analysis as well. So I'm going to take Volkov because cool name. All right, that'll do it for the Sportsbook Rundown. I can't wait for football, guys. Holy shit. This has to stop. Hopefully Jeff doesn't win next week. Hopefully I win, and let's talk about prospect poker. Kevin, take it away.
All right, yeah, we're going to get some prospect poker here. We're going to be looking at our best and worst football coaches in college football. But these aren't like your top guys here, so we're not necessarily going after like Saban and those type of things. Just guys that we really respect and what they do at their programs. Doesn't necessarily mean they're winning national championship all the time. So we're going to play poker. Games are simple. We're going to toss 3 cards on the river. Each holds 2. Before we review our best and worst, we'll talk about them. So, Christian, why don't you give us one of your best coaches in college football?
One of my best, or what I think is the best, and one of my favorite coaches is Matt Campbell at Iowa State. I think what he's been able to do with a program that was just not up to par has been pretty outstanding. He's turned in some really good recruiting classes, but what he does is he just coaches his butt off when he's out there. He's gotten a ton of NFL interest, and with good reason. He's one of the most brilliant guys coaching currently. I think that we talked about it. I think he's going to stay there. I think he wants to build that program. He signed an extension. I think he's trying to build the next Alabama at Iowa State. Good luck with that. I don't think he can do that, but he's trying, and I respect that, and I love him as a coach. So.
Yeah, I really want him to go to Michigan. I'm just going to be honest. I just want to throw that out there. I really want him to go to Michigan.
We tossed up a 2 of spades, a 3 of hearts, and an ace of hearts. And so Christian throws up a 10 of hearts, and that brings me up. My guy that I want to give a shout out and recognition to is Pat Fitzgerald. I think that I'm old enough to remember when Northwestern was a laughing stock on par with Vanderbilt, whatever else it might be. And while he doesn't have them at a level where they're competing for the playoff like Matt Campbell is with Iowa State, the ability that he has done to build a consistent winner at Nebraska is outstanding. He's had multiple 10-win seasons. Last year, in a COVID year, he went 9-2 or 7-2, I think it was. Very good year last year for Northwestern. And so I just think he's a phenomenal coach for what he is given. And he knows he's not going to be bringing in the best recruiting class, but I love the ties to the school, and I just love the story, and I love what he's able to do. And I think it's a classic college story. And I'm going to flip up a 9 of clubs, and I got nothing so far.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and give you mine. This is a guy that I think, even though he has a losing record, and it's not at Northwestern, it's at Kentucky, that's Mark Stoops. Our guy Stoops down there. You know what? He built Kentucky up from a basketball school to where they're relatively competitive. They got Chris Rodriguez down there. Their quarterback's there. If Joey Gatewood this year can maybe win that starting job. I got to give a shout out to Stoops. He's made Kentucky look competent in football, and he's a heck of a coach in terms of what he's able to accomplish there. And I'm surprised he hasn't gotten a bigger job, to be honest, for what he's been able to do at Kentucky.
So Kevin's flip is a 5 of clubs.
Wow, this is terrible poker we got going on right now.
Yes, we do.
Someone's gonna get a pair and beat me.
All right,
yeah, I'll take it away with one of my worst coaches in college football, and that's Clay Helton. This is just we don't support USC here. No, Helton is just kind of like the poster boy for mediocrity, right? He doesn't win big games. He really hasn't been a force in the Pac-12, and that's what, growing up, I'm not old enough to remember great teams. I'm old enough to remember the Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush team, and how USC was viewed in my mind was always they're one of the best teams in college football. Clay Helton is not the guy to lead them back to that. He's not. So he made my list. Sorry, Clay. And I'm sorry, USC fans. If you watch us, I don't mean to bash your team. It was just the first name that popped in my head. So.
All right. So Christian's flip a 4 of clubs. Nothing. So I'm going to take the layup. I got to the sheet first, and so I took the layup for this week. And Herm Edwards. And, college, you have certain expectations to be a college coach, and Herm Edwards, DGAF. He does not care about being a successful college coach. The dude just wants to got some money flash in front of him, and he's just running that program like he's going to, and he's got a fall guy. He's insulated himself very well, so we'll see if he continues to move along, but that was a layup, and I just think it was a terrible hire at the time that it was made, and it's proving to be more so.
Yep.
Ew. A 9 of diamonds. I got a pair, flipping up a pair.
I need an ace, baby. That's what I need in there. Yeah, so to piggyback on what Christian said, I think that USC also has the worst offensive coordinator in Graham Harrell, and he's the most overrated coordinator. His offense is insane. I don't like it. And so USC, you just suck. All right, so let's go. Let's talk about Dino Babers from Syracuse. I have no idea how he still has a football job. He went 24-36. He's 1-0 in Bulls. That's because he only won the one game that he made it in a bowl game. Besides that, he's gone 4-8, 4-8, 5-7, and 1-10 last year. And he's still, I think he got an extension after his 10-3 season that he won. So he's still there on the books for a few more years. I don't know how he keeps getting jobs. I just am confused. I don't understand it. Syracuse actually could be an okay program, but they just are not good. And I don't know how he still has a job.
All right, Kevin's flip a 10 of clubs.
Dang.
So Jeff finally won
the show.
Look
at that.
Yeah, this is my second win on the show. So
my bad.
I've won before, but I won again. So good for me.
How many? We need to keep track of our wins, guys.
We do. We probably should go back and do that
and count those up.
So that brings us to one last academic exercise, and that is blackjack. A little bit of trivia involved in the blackjack. So we are going to set it up here, and let's see here. Let's just play for fun.
Jeff's so excited he didn't set it up. He finally won. I'm just happy for him.
Such is life. All right. So the way that this works, we flip out and we ask questions. So that's Christian flips up a 20.
Oh, okay.
And Kevin, I think has traditionally been that spot, flips up a 14, and I flip up a 8. And so I have the lowest, so I'll hit first. So if somebody's got a question that they want to ask me.
I've got one. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. Who is the only Heisman Trophy winner on the Raiders roster in 2013?
In 2013, the only Heisman Trophy winner on the Raiders roster, because Woodson would have been gone by then. So, golly, Matt Leinart.
It was Charles Woodson. I think that was his last
Woodson?
year. Yeah.
Okay.
I thought that was a fun question, too. We talked about him last week. So.
Yeah, cool. All right. So, yeah, I've got 12. Throw me with another question. I don't know.
Here, I got one. I think who holds the best rookie passer rating in NFL history?
Best rookie passer rating, Baker Mayfield.
Dak Prescott.
Dak Prescott.
Ooh.
All right.
Dak Prescott had 104.9 passer rating, and he broke the previous record by Robert Griffin.
All right. Let's see. Christian, you have a question for Kevin?
Sure. Drew Brees broke which of these quarterbacks' records of 48 consecutive games with a touchdown?
It's Peyton Manning, right?
It was Johnny Unitas.
Well, same thing. They played for the same team. That's pretty close. I would have had a blackjack too.
Kevin bust. So
too
Christian won the.
Yeah,
right.
Christian won, but did he
All
win?
for nothing. No, I
No,
lost.
he didn't win because I won.
All right, let's get who are our teams, Jeff, out of the McDonald's?
Yeah, let's grab here. All right, you guys got Dustin Johnson.
That'll be me, I guess.
All right, that'll be Christian. Christian's got
I'll
Dustin
take it.
Johnson. And Kevin's got Patrick Cantlay.
So oh, gosh.
All about Goff here.
Good stuff.
All right.
Okay.
Well, you get a FaceTime, Jeff.
It's done a little bit FaceTime. Just be nice to people. Like, come on. It's not that hard. I understand you're behind a computer screen and you might think you're the toughest, smartest guy in the world. Just be nice to people. It's, we're all out here. We're all doing our very, very best to try to put together good content, try to put together insightful things. If you think that somebody is a moron, then approach them and say, hey, I think you can do this better this way. Don't be like, hey, I think that this is a jackass over here. So please just stop it and be nice to people. It is not that hard, and we are all in this together. And that's all I have to say. Kindness, work hard. We have the same goals. We can all do it together. Chill the heck out and stop making it Josh Jacobs Day, because every time Josh Jacobs Day comes around, every couple of weeks, everybody starts to argue about a running back that has let everybody down, and it's never going to end well when we decide it's going to be Josh Jacobs Day. So stop having it be Josh Jacobs Day and be nice to people.
That's my favorite segment ever on this show. That's my favorite.
All right. Jeff says be nice to people out there. That's what we have to do. Next week on June 29th, we'll be on at 9:30. Be sure to catch us in the Going for Two family of pods. Until then, I'm Kevin Coleman at DuBois_22.
I'm Jeff Bell at For Whom J. Bell Tolls.
And I am Christian Williams at C. Williams NFL, and this is the Devy Royale.